The HOA used my property like a dumping ground all winter long, and they thought I would just stay quiet about it every single snowfall. Their trucks pushed piles of snow straight onto my land, like at W. As part of their system, and not once did they ask, not once did they think I might do something about it. And by the time I realized what was really happening, it was already too late because my yard was buried under mountains of packed snow that did not even belong to me. If you enjoy stories like this, make sure you like and subscribe to HOA Revenge Files, because what happened next turned the entire situation around. In a way no one saw coming, I moved into this neighborhood a couple of years ago, and at first everything seemed normal: clean streets, quiet houses, and people who mostly kept to themselves. The HOA looked organized on paper. Rules were clear, fees were steady, and I did not have any issues. In the beginning, I followed everything they asked for, kept my driveway clear, maintained my yard, and stayed out of trouble. The first snowfall that winter felt peaceful. Nothing unusual, just a normal cold morning with fresh snow covering everything. But later that day I heard the sound of trucks outside, louder than usual, and when I looked out the window I saw something that did not feel right. A snowplow was clearing the main road, but instead of evenly distributing the snow, it was pushing large piles directly toward my side of the property. At first, I thought it was just how the route worked. Maybe it was temporary, maybe they would move it later, but they never did. The next snowfall came, and the same thing happened again. More snow pushed into my yard, more space taken up without permission. Slowly it started building into something much bigger than I expected. After a few weeks, my yard looked nothing like it. Used to, it was no longer a clean open space. It was a collection point forever. Why thing the HOA did not want on the road: thick layers of snow, stacked higher and higher, turning into hard frozen piles that were almost impossible to move. And that is when frustration started to build, because this was not an accident anymore. This was a pattern. I decided to talk to the HOA about it. Lie at first, because I wanted to give them a chance to fix it without turning it into something bigger. I contacted the office, explained what was happening, and asked if they could redirect the snow. Where else? The response I got was casual, like it was not a real issue. They said snow management sometimes required flexibility, and that certain properties might experience temporary inconvenience during heavy winter conditions. That answer did not sit right with me, because there was nothing temporary about what was happening. My yard was being used every single time it snowed, and it was getting worse with each storm. So I followed up again, this time more directly, asking them to stop pushing snow onto my land and to come up with a different plan. Days passed, and nothing changed. The trucks kept coming, the snow kept piling up, and it became clear that they were not taking me seriously at all. One morning, I stepped outside, and the pile near the edge of my driveway had grown so large that it was starting to block part of my access. I had to clear space just to get my car out, and even then, it was not easy. The snow was packed solid, heavy, and mixed with ice from repeated freezing and thawing cycle. That was the moment things shifted for me, because this was no longer just about inconvenience. It was affecting my daily life, my time, my effort, and my property. And the HOA was acting like it was completely normal. So instead of arguing again or sending more emails, I decided to watch carefully and mails, understand exactly how they were operating, what routes they were taking, how often the trucks came, and where the snow was being pushed from. And to what I noticed over time was very clear: the trucks followed the same path every time, clearing the road and pushing everything toward my side, because it was the easiest option for them. It saved time, it saved effort, and it kept the rest of the neighborhood looking clean while my yard absorbed the problem. And once I understood that pattern, I started thinking differently, because if they were using my space as part of their system, then maybe I could change how that system worked. Without even needing their permission, I stopped trying to convince them and started planning quietly, because I knew they were not going to change anything unless something forced them to, and I was done waiting for that to happen on its own. So every time it snowed, I let them do exactly what they had been doing all winter. I did not interfere. I did not complain. I let the piles grow bigger and heavier, because now I had a different goal in mind. The snow kept coming, and my yard slowly turned into a massive wall of packed ice and snow, and instead of fighting it, I started hating it. I used basic tools at first, then rented stronger equipment and began pushing and stacking everything in a controlled way. I made the piles taller and tighter, forming a solid barrier right along the edge where their trucks usually passed, and I made sure it stayed fully on my property. So he was no question about boundaries. At first, no one noticed what I was doing, because from a distance it just looked like the same snow they had been dumping all season. But as days passed, the shape became more defined. It was no longer random. It was a wall, thick, solid, and placed exactly where it would change everything. The next snowfall came, and just like always, the truck showed up, clearing the road and pushing snow toward my side. But this time, something was different. The driver slowed down because there was no open space left to dump anything. The wall blocked the path completely, and the snow had nowhere to go without spilling back into the street. I watched from inside as the truck tried to adjust its angle, but it could not push through the barrier. It was too dense, too high, and completely within my property line, so they had no legal reason to touch it. Within a day, I received a message from the HOA asking about the situation and why snow removal was becoming difficult in my section of T. He neighborhood, and for the first time their tone was not casual. It was concerned because now their system was not working anymore. I responded simply and clearly, explaining that the snow on my property was the result of their own actions over the entire winter, and that I had every right to manage my property the way I saw fit, just like they had been doing without asking me. They pushed back at first, saying it was creating inconvenience for the community. But I pointed out that the same inconvenience had been placed on me for months and ignored completely. More days passed, and the issue started affecting more than just my property. The road was not being cleared as smoothly. Cars had to slow down. Traffic was building, and residents began asking questions about why things had suddenly changed. That is when the pressure shifted, because now it was not just me speaking up, it was multiple people noticing the impact, and the HOA could not ignore it anymore. They requested a meeting, and this time I agreed, because I knew the situation had reached the point where they had to listen. We sat down, and for the first time they acknowledged what had been happening. All winter they admitted that the snow had been redirected to my property for convenience, and that it was not handled properly. I stayed calm and made it clear that I was not looking for conflict. I just wanted fair treatment and respect for my property, the same respect they expected from every homeowner in the community. After that meeting, things changed quickly. They adjusted their snow routes, brought in additional equipment, and made sure no more snow was pushed onto my land. The wall I built stayed in place for the rest of the season as a reminder of what happens when someone is pushed too far and decides to respond in a smart way. By the time winter ended, my yard was cleared properly and restored, and the HOA had completely changed how they handled snow management in the entire neighborhood. If you made it this far, drop a comment and tell me what you would have done in this situation, and share this story with someone who loves a good comeback, because sometimes the best way to solve a problem is not to fight louder but to think smart. And if you enjoy content like this, keep supporting HOA Revenge Files, because there are many more stories where things do not go the way people expect.